Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Keys of My Success, part of the For Love of Chiropractic podcast series. I'm your host, Dr. Robert Freeman. On today's show, we get to speak with another amazingly successful doctor. And here she is.
Hi, I'm Dr. Tiffany Thornton. I live in Jacksonville, Florida. My husband, Dr. Matthew Thornton, and I have built a practice from the ground up starting in 2017. And over the past 7 years, we've made it one of our life's passions to continue to pour into our community. We have a multi-million-dollar business. We've actually added a second multi-million-dollar business to incorporate inside the practice, starting with chiropractic and transitioning to holistic nutrition and functional wellness. I have 3 children of my own. We're heavily involved in our church here in Jacksonville, and I actually am a published author, and I go on speaking tours to continue to educate women on patient advocacy and what true informed consent is. In this world of medicine, giving patients a voice is the thing that sets us apart the most.
Wow. Let's hear the rest of the interview now. Hello and welcome to Secrets of My Success, part of For the Love of Chiropractic podcast series. On each episode, I'll be interviewing one highly successful doctor or business person, asking them what are their 3 keys of success or secrets they've used to make themselves so highly successful. So let's get started with today's show. So I have on the phone with me today and right now Dr. Tiffany Thornton. Tiff, are you there?
I'm here, yes.
And it was so awesome. I love the introduction that you did. It is just so incredibly powerful. I'm super excited for you to share your story. So as we begin, now how many years have you been in practice?
I've been in practice since 2012, so 13 years.
13 years. That's awesome. And what was your path? How did you become a chiropractor?
When I was little, I actually was obsessed with the whole idea of birth and new life, like something coming into the world. It excited me. And I had some of my own, figuring out how I learned best, trial and error years. So I wasn't a high performing student until later in high school, college, and grad school. So I had some negative talk spoken over me. You're never going to be smart enough to be a doctor. And I took that too literally and stopped dreaming. And then once I figured out how I learned best and how I can push myself academically and really soar, I reignited that dream within myself and said, well, what sort of practice do I want to have? Obstetrics didn't also fall really in line with my desire to have a family. And then I met a chiropractor at a career day who just loved what he did. I wanted a different summer job other than lifeguarding, but I'd never been adjusted. He got me into the field of chiropractic by letting me read patient testimonials. That was the best thing he could have done, because in reading those, I was watching in front of my eyes, page after page, people's life coming back to them, people's quality of life, people's dreams coming back to them. I'm like, that's the part of birth that excited me. Like this new life, there's hope, there's potential, there's unseen opportunity, untapped greatness that's ahead of you. I was like, that's chiropractic. And so I was 17 years old and was like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And 20 years later, it's the best decision that I've made career-wise, and I haven't looked back or regretted it once.
That's amazing. Okay, so now you graduated from which school?
I went to Palmer Chiropractic.
Palmer, Florida, California, Florida?
Palmer, Florida.
Palmer, Florida. Great school. My daughter's there right now.
Nice.
So, okay. And so when you graduated, and then, so you associated or you opened right up?
I was an associate for 5 years, actually. A couple different practices. Before I even went into private practice, I had gone through a personal hard spot and was like, I need to actually kind of figure out what I want out of life. And so I served on a mission trip for 7 months immediately after graduation. Wow. Graduation was on a Friday. I hopped on a plane on Wednesday and was served in the Dominican Republic on naval bases and hospitals, in bushes and orphanages, in schools, giving hospitals an educational platform when it came to nutrition, a like back healing protocol. I wasn't going to teach them how to adjust. I'm like, that's it's more complicated than just, a thrust here or like rotation there.
Right.
But I was able to leave behind education for other areas in the country, which is amazing.
Wow. I mean, and exponentially, you changed the lives of people in an entire country. That is so cool.
It was really fun.
So then you came back and then and you associated. So and
came back and was an associate. One of the things I asked every practice that I worked for was, can I just make sure I'm able to serve on short-term mission trips twice a year?
Mm-hmm.
They're like, you have vacation days, you can never want them. So that's actually on one of those short-term mission trips. Like it's a Friday or a Wednesday to Sunday sort of deal. I met my now husband, and so when we met on one of those trips, it became very, very clear that I didn't know a ton about business. I was very academic, I was a TA for 6 different classes. I won the clinical excellence award when I was in school. I was like heading up different forums. I was a PSA, like Palmer Student Alumni Foundation president on student, I was just very driven in school and performance-based that way. Whereas Matthew I'm going to learn how to build something from the ground up. So I was a great employee, but I didn't know how to create something on my own. I was a great rule follower. You could give me the lines to color inside of, and I'll give you every shade of whatever. But it was having his vision and being able to think outside the box, get scrappy. Both of us weren't afraid of working hard, so that served us for sure. But that's what helped us launch our own practice. He still had some time in school to finish up when we first met. So we waited till after he graduated to open up, and that was our timing. So he graduated, and then within a few months, we moved to Jacksonville and opened up Thrive Health Center.
I love your story so far. I am so excited for you to share the rest of it. So I want to jump ahead just a little bit. So tell everybody what makes your practice unique. I know you mentioned some of it in the intro, but really play it out for us now. What makes your practice unique?
I say our 3 uniques are our educational process, our treatment trifecta, which I'll get to that in a second, and our positive connection. We're so big on the culture of our team and the experience that our patients have. So often in healthcare, patients are treated like a number. They're treated like an insurance card. They're treated just like an inconvenience. People deserve better. Mm-hmm. And it starts with understanding, what are your rights as a patient? Your rights are true informed consent. Do you understand what consent is? It's a full understanding and making decisions based out of education, not out of fear. So we are very, very pro our patients, whether that's getting help with us or elsewhere. And that has made a world of difference. Our treatment trifecta is making sure we have enough options where we're not so pigeonholed and closed-minded when it comes to care. I started, Palmer Package, actually fell in love with upper cervical, got upper cervical 1 and 2 level certified, and then was like, I think I do want to adjust below C2. And so I
oh my God, you're a heretic.
Extremities, are you kidding me? So then I kept looking at other techniques and fell in love with CBP, chiropractic biophysics, because I was like, that just makes sense to me. Your structure dictates your function. Let's get this upright mobile person functioning better. So we started with that, and then we realized, just like, BJ Palmer, he was an outside the box kind of guy. He never stopped asking questions. And I was very, very philosophically driven in school and even after graduation. And I was like, the whole philosophy was don't ever stop being curious. Why would we stop asking questions? When chiropractic was developed, not founded, but developed, it was in that day and age. Our diet's different now. Our stress levels are different now. EMFs are everywhere now. So we had to say, I'm like, yes, I love and appreciate what BJ Palmer did. If he was alive today, what would he be doing with the technology? And so we did incorporate decompression because we realized everyone is sitting all the time, and the majority of patients have too much weight on them. And so getting the discs rehydrated is paramount. Stem cell therapy with soft wave. That was something that was huge in our practice. Now we're getting into functional mobility using high FEM, which is high frequency electromagnetic energy, which is mind blowing. So it's just really neat to see people, again, we have a saying in the office: reduce suffering, restore hope, reclaim health. And like when we can reduce suffering, that's obviously what people think they come in for. But the reason they stay is when we start talking about hope. They keep poking at that hope. Don't give up on it. Like, what does it look like? Chase after it, make it bigger. And then they start reclaiming their health and their life back.
I love that. So you said so many important things right there, and we're going to jump back and touch on some of them in a few minutes again. So that's what makes your practice so unique, and I absolutely love that. So here you and your husband are, literally just a decade plus out of school, and you have this multi-million-dollar practice that you have built and continue to build. So for the doctors who are listening, what would you say your 3 keys of success are? You're rolling up your sleeves and what?
If you are just graduating, please know that doctor does not mean I know it all. And it's really hard to humble yourself when you have worked your tail off and you are eyeballs deep in student loan debt to say, I deserve this much. Like, it's called the practice of medicine. Like, we should always be improving. And you should be at your worst when you graduate, truly. Like, I'm 12, 13 years into this now. I'm so much better as a practitioner than I was when I first started. And that's how it should be. So come into practice humble. Come into practice hungry. You need both. You need to say, be very, very clear about what your vision is. Have it specific. So like make it a SMART goal, like specific, measurable, attainable, and something with a time. But make sure that you're humble enough to find a strong mentor who's going to like ensure that you are getting the coaching you need. The best thing you can learn is where you're wrong. Everybody has blind spots in every area of life. If you aren't willing to have someone poke out blind spots, you just stunted yourself right there. And it's going to be a massive uphill climb. So hungry and humble is like number one.
I just got to pause right there. Yeah. You said something I have never heard another doc say, and I've been interviewing successful doctors for months now, let alone, learning about the success of philosophy for decades. Mm-hmm. Learn where you're wrong is such a beautifully simple statement. I've heard it said, if I buy what you're selling, we both lose. If you buy what I'm selling, we both win. And I'm not talking about care plans at this point. I'm talking about life. Right. But to state it so simply as the way you just did, be hungry, be humble, and learn where you're wrong. That's where growth is. That is beautiful. See, I knew I needed to talk to you.
I mean, it's true. I went to, I'm always curious, like, what are these other techniques? Like, just because I can move a bone and people know it. It's hilarious when people come into the practice and they see like, a 5'10", 130-something pound lady come in. They're like, oh, I'm sorry. I really needed like a heavy-handed adjustment. And the team's like, no, we just sent the gorilla in. Like, trust me. Like, this girl. In fact, like all the little ladies know, like, oh, I'm waiting for a doctor. And they name any of the other guys in the practice. They're like, they are not like, Tiffany is a grizzly bear. Like, I am known for like, I can move a bone. I'm like, and my philosophy is I can't stand subluxation. It is interfering with your nervous system. Why am I going to be nice to it? Exactly. I'm not. I'm going to move that bone. I'm going to get clear, remove the interference, and like clear your nervous system. So that's one. And then number two is just know that success is not linear. Like, know that failure is inevitable, and it is not your defining moment. You have to fail to grow. We just put our kids in jiu-jitsu a couple years ago, and I love it so much. And I was like, this is the sport of entrepreneurs. The more you fail, the better you get if you have the right mentality. If you have the like, oh shoot, this is supposed to come naturally and come easy because I am athletic. If you take the like, because my parents were chiropractors, because my parents, this should come down to this. No way. Like, it should be really challenging. You should fail and say, got it. what do I learn from that failure? Like, your failures don't define you. They become your building blocks. They become your warning signs for something in the future.
Exactly.
They become your protection, truly. And then just keep remembering, like, why you love it. Like, people ask all the time, because I have 3 kids. I'm there in the mornings, and then with my kids in the afternoon. And people, I didn't realize I did this. People say all the time, like, are you ever going to just be full-time at home? I said, that's not something that I feel like God's called me to right now. I want my children, my girls specifically, to know, like, moms don't stop dreaming after they have babies. And I was like, this is something they see me do and they see me love. So I didn't know I had this habit until a patient pointed it out. And she said, Dr. Tiffany, my daughter, after the adjustment, went home and played Dr. Tiffany with her toys. And I said, oh, how did you know she was pretending to be me? Did she tell you? She goes, no. She was pressing on all her animals. And she kept going, yes, perfect, awesome. And I was like, and I sit looking at her so confused. I was like, what do you mean? She's like, that's what you say when you adjust us. And I was like, do I? I'm like 9 years into practice when she's telling me this. I was like, huh? I had no clue. And then from that day on, I hear it all the time. Like, I just love it. Because all I see is like, oh my gosh, potential, amazing, yes. There's that movie, The Kingsman.
Yes. And
there's a scene in the movie where the trainee is talking to the trainer, and he's in the room with all the newspaper articles, and it's all those headlines of, Beanie Baby stock hits an all-time high, the Dodgers win the World Series, like, just pretty benign or like nice and exciting newspaper headlines. And they said, what's this? And he said, this is why we do what we do. Like, you don't know what disasters we're performing with. These were the newspapers the morning after we prevented a huge disaster. All these headlines would have been something catastrophic had we not done our job. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that's chiropractic. When you work in the wellness industry, you have no idea how many, like, horrible things you prevented, whether it's like because you worked with someone's spine for so long, when they got hit in that car accident, their injuries were minimal. Because you worked with someone for so long, once when you worked with this patient, they, were able to have a healthier beating heart, and they just lived longer. Because we had one case, a kid was hit in a hockey game right at C2, mm-hmm. and there was a fracture at C2, and the surgeon said, because his spine is in such perfect alignment, this is going to heal perfectly at 5 millimeters to the left or right, and we'd be dealing with a paralyzed child. Yeah. So you have no idea what you're preventing when you work in the field of wellness, and you have to be okay with that. Being like, I'm okay to be a silent hero because the mission and the why in my heart is big enough to say, that's a win for me. Just knowing that somehow there's some invisible opportunity that you now have that I don't know what it is, and you're not quite sure what it is, but it exists now.
Exactly. I learned as a very young chiropractor, I had a coach and mentor say to me, the best chiropractic stories are the ones that we never know and never get to tell.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
Right. Because of the lives that we've changed, you've altered the course for the better for each one of your patients. Yeah. Amazing. So that's absolutely fantastic. So unfortunately, time is beginning to run away from us. So I've got to ask you a totally different question.
Please.
So do you think that it is possible for a doc who's just getting out of school today, or someone who's been in practice for a while and just has not been able to find the success that they would hope for, is it still possible in today's world to become a huge success?
Absolutely. There is no shortage of success. There's no shortage of people. Sadly, there's no shortage of pain in this country. You just have to use your voice effectively to say, here's who I am, here's why I can help, and here's why I want to help you specifically. Find out who you want to help and start having conversations about or to those people. Doesn't matter if you are new in practice or have been in practice decades. You can start this journey of literally watching miracles happen and expecting miracles regularly at any stage. One of the things that helped Matthew and I the most was, even before we opened our practice, we went on another mission trip. Like, why are we starting? Because the service is at the heart of everything we do. And we made sure that we kept in touch with the mission group that we went on. Like, our heart is to serve. So stay grounded in your service. So if that's where your heart is, if you're like, I got to stay grounded in athletics. Well, are you disciplined in athletics? Like, is your fire lit for that thing? Once it is, you're unstoppable.
Exactly. All right. So I want to ask you a different question, switching gears slightly.
Mm-hmm.
How do you define business success?
I'd say having clear goals and creating a roadmap to get there, and then being humble enough to, successful years when you say, like, what did we learn from this year? It's not saying like we had the perfect year, because we had financially strong years in spite of ourselves with bad systems and a lot of stress. And then we had years where we didn't do as well financially, but we learned so much. And we're like, oh my gosh, this is about to launch us into huge growth. I feel like anytime you say, here's my plan, here's what I learned. And again, just being able to look at business success, saying like, where was I wrong? And again, like rewriting that plan, that's business success to me. Just continually rewriting the plan.
That is beautiful. And I couldn't agree with that more. I absolutely love that. So let's make it a little bit more personal now. How do you define personal success?
Personal success is, honestly, it's definitely a combination of a few things. It's realizing who you are as a person and learning to be okay with that. I think every one of us as adults still carries inside of them that small child who has unmet needs. And what part of those unmet needs or unobtained dreams are you still able to nurture? And how do you make yourself proud every day? How do you make that child inside of you proud every day? And are you remaining true to yourself? When people remain authentic, when people like don't feel the need to perform, and they can just say like, hey, here are my strengths, here are my weaknesses, and here's my heart on the table. And you can operate out of that, that's success.
Oh, that is absolutely beautiful. So I'm going to ask you one final question. If somebody has listened to this episode and they've heard your words and go, wow, man, this lady knows what she's talking about and she is freaking awesome. What would you say to that person? Here's your first step. Here's the first thing you need to do to become more successful.
The first step you need to do to become most successful is look at what was the last step you were supposed to take, and did you fulfill it? Because a lot of times people want to say, what's my next step? What's my next step? Well, what were you supposed to have just done and just finished? Were you faithful to the task that was already put in front of you? If not, find out why. Like, what is holding you back?
Wow.
Before you can even do that, sometimes people need to say, like, what's the most outrageous thing? The question that someone asked, and it's a very common question. If I could do anything in the world for the glory of God and I knew it wouldn't fail, what would I do? It's like, write that out. Like, okay, so it exists a roadmap from where you are, whomever you are, to that place. And it's up to you to decide, like, are you willing to make every scary step and every sacrifice in order to get there? If you're not, you can just wave goodbye to the dream and just say, that's all you are, is a dream. If you are willing to say the sacrifice, the discipline, and the level of discomfort it takes to get there is worth it for either my good or the greater good of my family, mankind, whatever, then start freaking taking massive action, because those dreams are worth it.
Wow. I love everything you have just said. There are so many more questions I would love to ask you, but I don't want to take any more of your time. Dr. Tiffany Thornton, this has been absolutely fantastic. I can't thank you enough for taking and making the time to do this interview.
Thank you so much, Doc.
All right. And I will look forward to speaking to you again soon.
Likewise.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye now.
All right. And that's our show for today. If you have a question about today's show or your own practice, feel free to reach out at fortheloveofchiropractic.com. Before making changes to your practice, be sure to seek legal advice regarding those changes and regulations in your state. For the Love of Chiropractic is an RGF production, all rights reserved. And thanks for listening. Original music provided by Hunter Rich Music.